Tesla will shock the world on March 1st, says Herbert's video, and we'll get into that. And this leak from Tesla employees actually supports this claim. Elon Musk will make one of the most significant Tesla announcements in many years at Investor Day on March 1st. Whether attending in person or watching the stream online, you will absolutely want to clear your schedule. I mean, look at this confidence here. The surprise was already ruined for us, but it will be worth the wait for everyone else. If I just interpret that tweet exactly as it is written, then I would assume there's going to be something big happening. And the last really big thing, when you think about it, big for not just us Tesla stock investors, but big for everyone, was Cybertruck, I think. That was a major announcement, so I would expect probably something on par with that. For myself, though, I'm keeping my expectations really low, but this is what I'm seeing when I read that tweet. Based on that tweet, I don't think it would just be a refreshed Model 3 or Model Y. I would expect a new vehicle from Tesla based on that tweet. This tweet comes from just a vehicle owner and a fan, so I would suspect this is not geared towards investors, meaning maybe Tesla Energy is not really going to be talked about that much, specifically Megapacks. And I can't imagine comparing a refreshed Model 3 to something as significant as Cybertruck. And now let's see if Herbert and John from Dr. Know-It-All Knows It All YouTube channel have any other shocking details. 50,000 people watched this video, so they must have done a great job. Usually the videos don't get 10,000 views, so let's take a look.
On March 1st, they will be sharing their plans for what he calls Master Plan Part 3. This will be the turning point, I believe, of Tesla being seen as an energy company, not just a car company.
I would be very happy if this turned out to be the big surprise that was leaked from Tesla employees. Elon predicted before that Tesla Energy could be bigger than its EV business, but based on that leaked tweet, I think it will be something that just appeals to everyone. And the most promising part of the energy business, at least right now, is the Megapack, which I don't think excites a regular person yet. Although, if they can make that somehow exciting to everyone, I'm all up for that.
This new Gen 3 platform will be one of the major agenda items on the Investor Day presentation on March 1st.
Tesla's Q4 earnings report said our next-generation vehicle platform is under development with additional details to be shared at Investor Day. The big question is, will that result in Tesla announcing a new vehicle on March 1st?
Now, the other two items, developing a self-driving car 10 times safer than humans and the ability to enable your car to make money for you, are likely not yet expected in the near term.
Master Plan Part 2, I don't think any of the milestones have been completely completed, because also they said a vehicle product line to address all major segments. And clearly we haven't gotten things like the Cybertruck yet, right? We don't have a pickup truck, which is a major segment. We don't have the ultra compact car, potentially, something like that. And some people put vans in there. I think vans are a pretty limited use case, so I'd give them a pass on that. But anyway, you know, I feel like at least we're not quite there with item number 2. And then self-driving capability that is 10x safer than humans via massive fleet learning. Certainly, obviously, they're working on that. But I personally do not believe that the Model Y that's sitting in my garage right now will ever be able to make me money. I do not believe that Hardware 3 is going to be capable of doing that. So, and we're looking at the transition to Hardware 4 right now within the next couple of weeks or months, starting with the Model S and X. And I highly doubt that they will ever allow Hardware 3 to be a robo-taxi. I'm not saying that it won't be able to drive you. I'm completely confident that Hardware 3 will be able to drive me to work and back, you know, without me having to take responsibility for the vehicle. I think that's going to happen. But turning it loose on the streets without any human being in the car at all, no. I think that's completely Hardware 4. So that's a pretty strong opinion on my part, but I'm fairly convinced that's correct. So I think that Master Plan Part 2, you know, yeah, okay, it will be able to make you money, but you're going to have to buy a new car. You're not going to be able to do it with cars that were purchased in the last 5 years or so, something like that.
Here's how I think about it as an investor. Let's say what John said actually turns out to be true. I look at Tesla's deliveries Tesla's 2022 deliveries nearly match its 2012 to 2020 total. That means that soon there will be more Teslas on the road with hardware 4 than hardware 3 because Tesla is growing so fast. My personal timeline for when robotaxis are coming has always stayed the same, sometime before 2030, before the end of 2030. But here's what I think Elon believes. During a Twitter Spaces call that Elon joined back in December, where he promised to not sell any more Tesla stock, he said that he may need to sell Tesla vehicles at basically break even if there is a bad recession, but he justified that by saying Tesla has something that no other company has, and that is a potential to turn every vehicle into a robotaxi later. And Elon was quite confident about hardware free on the last conference call. It seems like Elon clearly believes FSD will be solved with hardware free.
He wants to have something that takes half the amount of machinery, half the amount of space, half the amount of labor and effort to create as the current Model 3. Now, you can tweak that a little bit because you can say the Model Y is already a step in that direction, because clearly the Model 3 is not as efficient to build as the Model Y because it took a lot of lessons from it. And it's got the single piece casting for the back and the front. So, so you could say maybe it won't be 50% of the Model Y, but it still is going to have to be a substantial reduction in the amount of space and robots and labor and all of that stuff. So I think he's actually, that may be perhaps the most serious thing that he said. That's not a throwaway line at all, in my opinion. Now, are they going to show us what they're doing? I don't know. That's part of their secret sauce. I went there during Investor Day or Shareholder Day, whatever that was, August 4th, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, but it was up and running and they were building cars at that point, but you could only see the final assembly area. The whole area with the giga casting and all that stuff was all cut off. And I'm sure that was because they don't want to give away the state secrets that they have there. So, I don't know that they will necessarily show us everything, but I think that they are very, very serious about creating an entirely new type of factory line.
Elon has said multiple times before that Tesla's long-term competitive advantage will be manufacturing. And I am really looking forward to any remarks about manufacturing efficiencies on March 1st.
I think if they build a small enough car, they could actually gigacast the entire underbody. So I know people think I'm absolutely crazy, including, I think, Sandy Monroe. We talked about this. He's like, no. But my idea is that you've got the front and back already, and it could do that, right? But then for the middle part, assuming you have a structural battery pack, you can just have very thin rails, kind of an underpinning that connects the front and back. And maybe it's not necessary to even cast it as one piece in that case because it's such a small amount. But if you think about it, again, the cost of quality that Sandy Monroe talks about all the time, if you cast this in one piece, every single one is identical. They all come out. You don't have any of that kind of funky stuff where you're trying to fit it all together and all that stuff. It just stamps out this whole thing. You plop it down, you stick a structural battery pack to give the rigidity to the center section. And all of a sudden you've got a car that the whole undercarriage of the car is basically one piece with a structural battery pack plopped in. And that's pretty impressive.
The question in my mind is not, will Tesla do this? It's more, when will Tesla start doing that? Tesla eventually wants to move to basically one-piece casting. That would be the ideal, but that is insanely difficult to do. And right now, the Model 3, it has no structural battery pack, no front or rear giga castings. There is still a lot of room to improve just with that.
Dedicated robotaxi. Then there is the concept of the compact car.
Right.
So those would be two separate things.
I don't think so. That's why I've changed my mind about that. Yeah.
Explain.
John believes that because a new model that is similar to Model 3 but smaller and much cheaper would create an Osborne effect, which would cannibalize the sales of a Model 3. That makes sense. If you make the new model look very different from the Model 3, I think that would be helpful to not cannibalize the Model 3 sales. And if it's something that looks like a robotaxi, something that looks quite different, but with pedals and a steering wheel, although initially then it is announced maybe it will not have any of those things. And then if full self-driving is not solved in time, then maybe those would be added. And if it doesn't look completely crazy so that you could actually buy the car for personal use and it won't look like you are driving a bus everywhere, then maybe that would be good enough for a $25,000 passenger car as an example. There are a lot of questions right now, and we will get a lot of answers on March 1st. I hope.
So as a Tesla stock investor or just a stockholder, it would be kind of nice if they did a buyback, because that would mean the value of my stock would go up just automatically. But as a human, like a citizen of the earth, I really hope that they do some sort of crazy moonshot thing. I mean, I love the idea of them just building 100 square miles of solar panels, like just going like, yeah, we've got so many billions of dollars. We're just going to take $8 billion and we're just going to do that. So, I mean, that could be what literally they could say, this is our capital allocation. We're just doing this for the good of humanity. Knowing Tesla, they will make money off of it eventually too, because they'll become the next gigantic power source.
I think no one is really expecting Tesla to do that, although Elon does talk about something like this constantly on Twitter. The amount of solar energy received by Earth could power a civilization over 100 times larger than ours. This is referencing the Sahara Desert, for example. A theoretical calculation says that we could satisfy the world current demand for power by covering 1.2% of the Sahara Desert with solar panels.
This is not a regular thing. So I don't think it was like, oh, it's March 1st again, we got to do another investor day. It's like, no, they planned this. This didn't have to happen. They could have easily just skipped it. So I think it's very intentional, and I think it's going to be a big deal. Yeah, like I said, if they just announce a new Model 3 and a stock buyback, it's going to be like, I'll be really sad, because I think it's going to be a heck of a lot bigger than that.
Personally, I am keeping my expectations low, but I think John is generally correct. My expectations are set quite high now, and if it is only just a refresh of the Model 3, with maybe some cost reductions, but not significant cost reductions, and there's just some sort of a buyback, that would be, I think, somewhat of a disappointment for most. But I'll be happy with that if that's all that is, since I'm keeping my expectations low. And this is the Tesla stock buying opportunity explained by Elon Musk. My name is Matt Posius. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.